there's nothing like a repeat entrepreneur. And today's show is chock full of them, from Mike Rapoli to Zach Normandin to our next speaker, John Simmons. Now, John is a child of Colorado, and to prove it, he's also a former bike racer. John's also part of a pair of veteran entrepreneurs from the Boulder area who've taken their food and beverage experience and applied it to the attention-grabbing idea that cannabidiol, or CBD, might fuse the potential of functional products with the fast turns of the beverage business to create an incredible next stage opportunity. Now, John knows the pain of pioneering a category. He started Third Street Chai about 20 years ago, and I can tell you personally that as someone who's advised a chai startup himself, it's tough sledding. And one of the things I like about John is his real openness about the environment in which he operated then and which he's operating in now. And so, like any good storytellers, we've decided to fully take advantage of his openness and bring him up to talk about what it's like pioneering this brand new, incredibly attention-getting category of CBD beverages. So here to give us a report from the front lines of the CBD business, we have John Simmons, the co-founder of Weller.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for coming. Here's a green button goes forward.
Gotcha. Hi, everybody, and good afternoon. Jeff, thank you for the gracious hospitality. It's always a pleasure to see you. So, my name is John Simmons. I'm the co-founder of Weller. What used to be Snacks now is Weller completely food and beverage products right now. We started Weller 2 years ago. My business partner, Matt Oskimo, is also a serial entrepreneur, the former owner of Frontier Bites, a California snack company. Matt was introduced to me by a gentleman named Wayne Wu from VMG. Thank you, Wayne. We're very grateful for the introduction. Matt and I bonded immediately and sought out to create a food and beverage company that championed CBD, hemp CBD in particular, but further down the road, cannabinoid iterations in food and beverage. What Jeff asked me to do today is to share a snapshot of the CBD category. And again, this is going to be part correspondent, what we're seeing on the front lines from retailers, distributors, competition, sort of like what this looks like from our point of view, but then also what it might look like, if you were looking at it from a brand owner's point of view. So whether or not you're anticipating on being in this category, and this is, talking to the entire beverage industry, you're going to be forced to reckon with this category one way or another, whether or not you're introducing a product, thinking about introducing a product, or looking for shelf space in this otherwise really competitive and overcrowded set. So let's jump into it. Briefly, as Jeff mentioned, we started Third Street Chai back in 1995 in Boulder, Colorado, and we were essentially selling chai before anybody in the US really knew what the word meant or what it was. We had seen chai start to take place in places like Boulder, Santa Cruz, Portland, and again, because go back in time, we didn't have the hyper-connectivity that we have today. Emerging trends took a slightly slower path to market. They typically would start, in a smaller, fragmented settings such as a coffee shop. In Boulder, that would be, we had chai in Indian restaurants, ashrams, and it wasn't really known until Starbucks introduced it. So again, I think there are some learnings and some highlights that you can take from the chai category, the kombucha category, and lean in and see if they apply to the CBD category, and in particular, the CBD beverage category. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. I found myself passionate about riding bicycles, so I made that my life pursuit. Through high school, found myself racing in France, which was a great opportunity for 3 seasons. It was pretty much my entire life. After a recurring back injury, I found myself back in Boulder. I finished college, and like any good college graduate, found myself working in a coffee shop as a barista, which was actually really amazing. If you've never done it, it's a fantastic experience. One thing that we discovered at the coffee shop, and this is really when we started selling chai to, everyone walking down the street, is they didn't know what the word meant. They didn't know what it did for them. They didn't know how to personally interpret that. What struck me as a first-time entrepreneur, and one of the reasons why I got into the space with my business partner, Doug Habrick, who was already making chai for the coffee shop, was that there was no alternative for chai loyalists, for someone who had really adopted chai as their daily beverage. They didn't want a latte, they didn't want coffee, they didn't want tea. They simply moved on to the next shop. So again, as we look at kombucha, the CBD beverage category, we're talking about ingredients, products, brands. From a consumer-facing point of view, the consumer relates to it a number of ways. So CBD is an ingredient. I think we all understand that. But the CBD beverage category definitely has the opportunity to define the category, define itself in a myriad of ways, which could embrace health, which is very much up to personal interpretation. In 2017, Matt and I launched Weller at Expo West after raising $1.25 million in a seed round. Our first product line were our coconut bites. Why we launched coconut bites is we wanted to differentiate from what we saw as the vast array of undifferentiated tinctures and topicals that existed in the market. We looked at Amazon, we looked at the online marketplace. In Boulder, we had Alfalfa's and Lucky's, an early pioneer in the CBD space. And we just saw this sea of tinctures with very little differentiation. There's some strong brand leaders that were, in this sort of like category captain space, Charlotte's Web in particular, who were doing a great job at educating the consumer about the benefits of hemp CBD. In 2018, Matt and I launched our sparkling water portfolio, which is 3 flavors, 0 sugar, 0 calorie, CBD, full spectrum, minus THC, which we now call broad spectrum. We also introduced our CBD drink mix. Where we're at as a company right now is we're approaching 1,000 points of distribution. We distribute approximately 20 states. And we are just now completing our first seed Series A round for $3 million of equity, being led by Brand Foundry. It also includes LiveWell Ventures, Great Oaks Ventures, and Canopy Boulder. And we're really excited to work with these guys and see what we can do on the category. Some quick data points on the overall CBD category. This is some data that will probably give you an idea of what and how fast this category is moving. If you look at the SPINS reports from January to March, we see an $11 million jump in revenue just in the category alone, which puts the category at a $78 million annual run rate. To put that in context, That puts it above the entire nut and seed butter category, the pet product category, and again, this is just in the natural channel. Beverage, we don't have any data, to be honest, on the beverage category. We have some retail data, but frankly, if you look at data in the CBD category that, let's say, goes back 6 months, 12 months, and the category is growing so quickly with new entrants, new retailers, voids across the country, it's our position that data can be misleading and largely irrelevant. As the category continues to grow, we're going to see new iterations. We're going to be bringing in new consumers, and geographically, as regulations begin to clear up, we're going to see those voids across the country start to fill in that picture so we get a better understanding of where the consumer is and what the consumer is looking at. The majority of beverage that we're seeing in this category, and again, because grocery hasn't activated beverage and food to the degree that it's activating tinctures and topicals. That largely has to do with the uncertainty around the FDA. It has to do with the uncertainty around the regulations, state by state. Topicals and salves, anything that's a non-consumable is seen as a less risky product category to participate in. So what's it like on the front lines? This is some insight, some highlights, some learnings that we'd love to share with you from the beverage side. Product development challenges. Everybody out there who's looking at this space, who has a product in this space, knows what I'm talking about. The challenges are threefold: flavor, solubility, and stability. The solubility piece is more of a science challenge. It's an R&D challenge. There's a number of significant ingredient companies and suppliers who are trying to find the best format that stays in solution, that doesn't clump, that tastes good, and that's going to stay stable for the period of time, let's say 12 months, that's on a shelf. Those are all incredible challenges. There's, at the same time, supply chain confusion. There's a number of brokers, representatives that pop up on, I'm sure you've seen this, LinkedIn, but Reddit and Nextdoor are no places to look for CBD. They're out there. This is a wild category. Finding operational partners, along with the product development challenge, is also a challenge. Pre-Farm Bill, we found that this was extremely difficult to get a co-packer to work with you, to find a fulfillment house to work with you, to find someone who's, willing to speak to their attorneys, speak to their insurance company, and find a way to mitigate the risk that directly affect their business. That's something we try to help with our partners, and we've seen some movement towards normalization in that category. Consumer education, point number 2, but probably point number 1 with building this category. There's confusion on terminology. Consumers don't really know the difference between hemp oil, hemp extract, CBD, full spectrum, broad spectrum, and in large part, these terms haven't been defined by anybody. Again, part of the Wild West of this category is, what's the nomenclature? What does it mean? We took the stance that removing THC from full spectrum extract was broad spectrum extract. Nobody guided us. We all just sort of collectively began gathering information about what everyone else is doing, what made sense. And now we're starting to see, again, no THC is becoming a real strong demand on the retailer's part as well as the distributor's part. Back to consumer education, we're learning a lot from what the tincture companies did when Charlotte's Web, let's say functional remedies, restorative botanicals, some people that are our neighbors in Boulder. We're going out and sending practitioners to the store to educate people. And as an example of the miseducation that's out there, I was in Boulder, let's see, this is last weekend, and I was at Pharmaca, which is a really progressive chain of natural, mainly healthcare, whole body products that just started selling CBD products, especially our products, which I went into the store to just check out. And I ended up overheard a gentleman who came in who explained to the Pharmaca staff that he had used CBD before, that CBD had worked for him, and he needed some help with picking a product. And his comment was, I get confused on whether it's 25 milligrams of full spectrum or 25 milligrams of CBD, because I really want the CBD, and what is this full spectrum extract? Which is kind of backwards from, where the purists are at, because they're like, whole plant medicine as a healing modality is really championed by, the smaller independents, the co-ops, the people who have a very intimate experience with how CBD, sort of started in this category and has been, sort of thrust into the mainstream in a variety of fashions. So retailer landscape. Again, just a real highlight view of this category. What we can share is that there's not a retailer who isn't interested in this category. With the compelling data that we see, CBD per point of distribution can be one of the most lucrative items in the entire store. Now, the challenge is, how do these stores navigate the regulatory risk? How do they activate? How do they secure or mitigate risk for their stakeholders? Well, the answer is they're all doing extensive due diligence. They're all staging. If they're not participating in this category, believe me, they have teams that know the right questions to ask. So as a vastly different landscape than the online CBD world. When you go into and talk to a retailer, they want to see your COA. They want full transparency. We've had retailers, and again, some would prefer not to be named before they enter the category, so we have to respect confidentiality with these national retailers, but are doing third-party testing for not only potency, but residues of pesticides, heavy metals, microanalysis, anything and everything where would allow them to err on the side of public safety. And we support that. It's actually really, really great to see these due diligence checklists begin to get more comprehensive, more informed of the actual plant, and more focused on supporting the consumer to make a wise decision and trust brands, or build trust in brands rather, which is going to drive brand loyalty, we feel, in the next 5-10 years. Distributors are basically following, this same basic sequence of activation of retailers. We start with the small distributors, the multi-regional distributors. A lot of the broadline distributors, I would say probably all of them, have yet to participate in this category. Again, they're developing their due diligence checklist. They're working with the retailers and consumers to figure out when and how they can enter this category. And again, the biggest variable in when they enter this category is state-by-state legislation. Increased competition, we're seeing brands come out each week. There's no doubt that there's going to be another 5 brands out next week. They're segmenting across categories. They're looking into different functions, different form factors. This is just, everybody says this is wild, and what we're seeing on the front lines is exactly the same. Investors, that's a real quick one. You have pre-Farm Bill and you have post-Farm Bill. Because the Farm Bill removed hemp and hemp derivatives from the Controlled Substances Act, the SEC no longer sees that as investing in illegal activities. That's the simple tipping point that now is allowing capital to flow more freely. And the best advice that we've been given is to raise money now and prepare for a larger funnel of capital down the line. Branding. We've broken down the different brand personalities that we've seen across 3 large umbrellas. Again, there's lots of different differentiations out there. These are the large umbrellas that we're seeing that are capturing consumers' attention. These are the ones that interest us. So here's some mood boards and some brands that we feel are speaking to people and resonating with consumers. We have the chill out, relaxed cope tropes. Again, Recess, Dreamcatcher are doing a fantastic job at capturing this space, doing a fantastic job of really connecting with where the consumer's expectations of CBD are. Next, we have the fun CBD. Whee! Let's try that again. The CBD whee crowd. So here we have 4 different brands that are more or less playing into, the different conventions of Instagram. And going back, what we can see is this is the opposite end of the spectrum than the chill, relaxed crowd. Moving forward, we find this to be the aesthetic, stylish spa tropes. Brands that are promoting more of a personal experience, brands that are, again, reflecting what we feel is, an Instagram convention, but deep thought of the day. Is CBD being reflected by Instagram, or is Instagram projecting onto the CBD category? No real answer on that, just interesting. Which brings us to our brand platform. And before we get into explaining the pillars and how Weller is differentiating and positioning for this emerging space, I'd like to show you a video. This is a visual expression of our brand personality and was captured at Forum Festival last month in Arcosante, Arizona. This was our very first event sponsorship, and we really wanted to collect feedback about the brand. So, if we could roll the video. All right. So this is not our brand demographic. This is what we call our brand psychographic. What we are targeting is a shared set of emotions and values and a mindset that we feel spans multiple demographics. We're not targeting a trend space. We're targeting a mind space. We want to support consumers in pursuit of this positive mindset. Which brings us to the 5 pillars of our brand. Our why, our belief, is a Weller life doesn't have to be so hard. We live in an era and a day full of wellness fatigue and multiple wellness options. Our position is wellness on demand. Our portfolio includes convenient, on-the-go, priced to be accessible CBD products. Our personality is more coach than couch. Our target is people pursuing a positive mindset. The proof points are food-forward expertise. Matt and I share 30 years of experience in the natural foods industry, focusing on clean products, better-for-you products, and that's exactly what we're doing at Weller. Uncompromising quality CBD, food-forward flavor. Again, this has to be what we lean on the most, the fact that our products are absolutely delicious. Which leads me to our form factors. Weller's form factors offer differentiated convenience. We want to meet the customer where they are. We started with snacks. And again, these are the more difficult categories to navigate with the current regulatory space, such as it is. But again, we feel this increased access to our customers. And now, Jeff.
Yeah, let's talk about the largest entrepreneur.
Sorry, guys. Okay.
To sit down, and we're gonna do that. Sorry, we're just running a little over, and I really want to talk about this. Like, you've got an opportunity to define a category here. What's your advice to people in the CBD business or who are interested in it, in terms of what you're learning about defining that category and what you've done in the past and how that works toward it?
You know, I think that's the biggest opportunity we have in an emerging category. When we started the chai company, Oregon Chai started at the same time. We took the route of trying to be the Swiss Army knife of chai. All the spices, all the tea, multiple functions. Oregon Chai defined a flavor and experience. And ultimately, I think where we're at today is most people relate to chai, how they expect the flavor to taste, as that Oregon Chai sort of cinnamon toast crunch cereal profile. The same opportunity exists in CBD beverage to create that expectation for years to come of what it should taste like.
And so that's what a lot of brands and a lot of consumers are facing right now, is this idea that, first of all, they're defining the form factor for CBD itself. So you have to say why it's a beverage, and what's the argument that you put forward from a brand perspective as to why that should be the case?
We feel that a beverage fits the usage pattern, the familiarity of the format of customers seeking that positive experience.
Okay.
We do feel that CBD beverage will ultimately be the largest part of the CBD category.
And it's just that it's a use state that your video defined really well. The other part of it is, how do you when you're creating this category profile, how do you what part of your experience is helping you create a relationship with what's a really unfamiliar taste?
Wow. I think the market is going to have to start speaking for that. With the multitude of formats out there, listening to your customers, getting the feedback is going to help us define what that taste is.
Are you living and dying with regulatory news right now?
You need to pace yourself with current events, as with anything in the world.
Yeah.
You can definitely overdo it. I think there's moments in time where you definitely need to pay attention. Pre-Farm Bill, everyone was just glued to what was happening. But I think that you have to balance what you listen to and pace yourself.
Do you feel like this early pack that's out there, do you feel like you've got a head start? There's so many powerful, large companies out there who are getting into this business or the THC business. What's going to keep the entrepreneurs from getting crushed?
I do feel like we got a good head start. The first expo we exhibited at, we were still answering the question, what is CBD? So allowing us to learn internally, allowing us to develop our messaging for our consumers is valuable information that's going to allow us to continue to overlay that with new products, new marketing campaigns as we, just sort of continue to build our brand.
What's keeping you up at night?
Bathtub CBD, online CBD, unregulated. Just
You have nightmares about bathtub CBD.
I have bathtub about consumers' experience bathtub CBD.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. And so what's got you sleeping like a baby?
Well, CBD. Duh.
John, thank you, man. That was terrific correspondence.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your time.